Hi, thanks. Hello. So today I would like you to leave from here and think about biases. The biases that you or your friends or your family may have, and the effect of these biases on the community we are all part of. But I also would like you to leave and think about care, and about what it means to truly care for others. And I don't mean for everyone else. I don't mean for those you know, but for everyone else. Because to a certain extent, all of us care for others. And that's great, don't get me wrong. But what I'm interested in today is discussing care as an approach to counter biases and the effect they have on societies and communities. The reason why I'm interested in biases is because they're dangerous. They're dangerous because they create distance between people and fractures within communities. And what I'm going to show you is that care, as an approach, is what allows us to reduce this distance and to create communities who are healthy and meaningful. My name is Mattia Scorzini. I work at Secondary, a humanitarian organization based in Ioannina since 2016. We work with people living in refugee camps, both in Agyeleni and in Katsikas. We provide people with English classes, capacity building workshops, excursions, and community events where we bring people together. Like right now, some of my colleagues are at the market near to Agia Marina with people from Katsikas. Tomorrow afternoon, we are going to Agyeleni to drink tea and play games with people who live there. And in a certain way, what we do, what we truly care about, is creating communities beyond biases, is helping people feeling welcome here and be truly active in our community. Everything that I'm going to tell you today, we learned it while working here on the ground, while working with people in camps. And therefore, our approach and our model is specific to the context of integration. But in a certain way, I do believe that the ideas that I'm going to share with you are universal and can apply to many other social groups in our society and in our community. Now, I think we can start with the serious stuff that I want you to speak to, that I want to speak to you about. Like I told you, biases are dangerous because they create distance between people, because they fracture community. And there's a word that we use to explain this, and the word is othering. The idea that I want to share with you is that biases are dangerous because they lead us to other people. And to other someone, it means to treat them as if they were different from what we are, and therefore to treat them differently. To other someone means to establish a sense of distance between you and the other, and basically to dehumanize him, to think that he's different from what you are. And what I believe is that a community is a healthy community where all the people who are part of it are treated in the same way, where the same rules apply to everyone, where when responsibilities are shared, and that therefore, if we start to treat people differently for whatever reason, maybe because of the country they come from or because of their culture, of their religion, we then divide the community. We create different groups with different rules, with different expectations. And when I speak about othering, I don't only speak about negative othering. Like when we other someone in a negative way, we think that he's different and that he's worse than we are. But I also speak about positive othering. Like for instance, sometimes out of good intentions, I can treat someone in a different way from the way I would treat anyone else. If, for instance, I believe that someone who is from Afghanistan is traumatized because of his past, and that therefore I cannot ask him questions about his past, then I'm treating him in a different way. And even if this comes out of good intention, I'm still treating him differently and establish a distance between me and him. Starting from this idea, over the years, we researched about othering and discussed about it a lot, and we found out that there are 4 different ways of othering people. And we created this visual graph that we use to explain it. This is the 4 quadrants of othering, and it represents the 4 different ways in which we can other or treat people in a different way. Now we start by the easiest one to understand. Here on the top left, we find demonizing. To demonize someone means to think that he is both strong and bad, that he is dangerous for me or for my family or for my culture or for my country or for whatever else. And that therefore he shouldn't be here. Like an easy example is if I say that people from Somalia are thieves, then I'm demonizing them. And I'm saying that they shouldn't be here because of this idea. Now, I think we all agree that this is an awful form of othering, and that it comes out of bad intentions towards people. And it's probably the easiest one to see and to recognize in society. But it's not the only one, because, for instance, just after it, we have stereotyping. We stereotype someone when we think that he is simply the product of his culture, or of his nationality, or of his religion. Like, for instance, if I think that someone who is a Muslim is 100% sure a sexist, then I'm stereotyping him. If I think that a woman from Syria will always wear an hijab, then I'm stereotyping her. And what is dangerous when we stereotype people is that we treat them in a different way and have different expectations on them. Is that we assume them to behave in a certain way or to think in a certain way because of their nationality or their culture or whatever else. Like, I'll give you an example. I think that if you're speaking with a Greek friend of yours and at some point he says something homophobic, you are going to say, what the hell? But I would like you to think, what would you do if you were speaking with a Syrian guy and he said something homophobic? Would you think, oh, that's quite normal, he's from Syria, it's his culture, I'm not going to tell him anything for that? Or would you engage in a conversation with him? Then there's another bias. This is patronizing, bottom right of the quadrant. We patronize someone when we think that he is not able to make decisions or to decide over himself or to be responsible for his actions and for his ideas. We patronize someone when we treat him as a victim, as someone who needs guidance, who's someone who needs support in everything he does because he's not able to do anything. I can give another example for that. Like a few weeks ago here in Yanina, we had a seminar with partners coming from different countries in Europe. And one of these partners, he came from Sweden, like he lives in Sweden, but he's a newcomer, a refugee from Turkey. And while we were discussing these ideas, he said something like, I relate to what you say, because when I say something intelligent, very often people are surprised. And the idea here is that people are surprised because they don't expect someone who is a newcomer, a refugee, to be intelligent. And the reason why they don't expect them to be intelligent is because they patronize them, because they think that they are traumatized, and they are, in a certain way, less able than we all are. And then we have the last bias, romanticizing. We romanticize people when we see them through the light of their experience of struggle. When we think that they are almost heroes for what they've been through. We romanticize people when we think that they are above us, when we think that they cannot do anything wrong, that they are good and strong and cannot make mistakes. And what's dangerous here is that we don't manage to interact with someone if we think that he is a hero. We don't really talk to him. We just talk to an idea we have in our mind, which is the idea of the hero. Those are the 4 biases that exist, and the 4 different ways we can other people. And something very important for me to tell you is that we don't solve the issue created by othering, by replacing biases. We don't help someone who is demonized by patronizing him. We help people to, we counter othering and negative effects of othering on societies when we remove the biases. When we take people out of these 4 boxes that we created and we stop othering them at all. And the way we do it is through care. To care about people means something very easy. It means to treat them as you would treat anyone else. It means to treat them as capable, approachable, reasonable, and equal individuals. And each of these 4 elements of care, we use them to counter one of the 4 biases that I just showed you. We treat someone as capable when we think that he is as capable as we are to do anything else. When we think that he is able to self-determine, to make his own decisions, to discuss with me, to be responsible for their actions, and so on. And this element of care helps us countering the bias of patronizing. If you think about the example that I said about my colleague from Sweden, when we stop thinking that people who are newcomers are less capable than we are, then we include them in our community and give them responsibilities and give them the possibility to be active. I think that we can all understand that when people give us responsibilities, then we feel more empowered, then we feel more active in our community, then we feel able to grow our ambitions. And this is something that newcomers, as everyone else, should have the right to. Then we have approachable. This is the second element of care. We treat people as approachable when we think that they are at the same level as we are. We use this element of care to counter the bias of romanticization. When we start thinking that people are at the same level as we are, then it means that we interact with someone who is real, who is not a hero in my mind, but who is a real person in front of me. A real person who can be wrong, as I am wrong sometimes. A real person that sometimes behaves badly, as I do sometimes. And what matters here is that we manage to interacting and creating real connections with people. When we treat people as reasonable, we think that they are able to discuss and to change their minds, and that they have an intellect as we do. To treat people as reasonable means to counter the bias of stereotyping. If you go back to the example I made before about the guy from Syria who says something homophobic, what we would do, and what we do in any of these situations, is to engage in conversations with people, to think that they are reasonable and that they are able to convince me or to change their minds if they are the ones being wrong. To treat people as reasonable means to refuse the racism of low expectations, to refuse the idea that someone from Syria will necessarily be homophobic, or that it's normal for someone from Syria to be homophobic. And this is very important because, in the end, to care about people means not only to comfort them, but also to confront them when we think that they are wrong. It also means to treat them with the same respect I would treat anyone else. And if I have a friend of mine who says something I disagree with, then I engage in a conversation. And that's what we should do, and what we do with the people we work with. And in the end, all these elements of care are summed into the idea of treating people as equal, meaning treating them as you would treat anyone else, with the same dignity and with the same respect but also with the same expectations, avoiding the possibility of creating double standards and creating communities where people are all on the same level, regardless of their country of origin or for their legal status, or regardless of their religion. In this way, care as an approach is what allows us to reduce and to counter the effect on biases. And it's what allows us to create healthy communities. There's one last thing that I would like you to think about. And it's how can we expand this model to other social groups? I told you we work with newcomers, so our model is specific to integration. But do you think that there are other social groups who could fit on the 4 quadrants that I just showed you? Do you think that there are other people in our society who are treated differently, with different expectations? And why? And in what way this happens? And I think that I would really love to hear your thoughts, and if you have any ideas on that, please, this is my email. Send me something. Also, if you want to share your thoughts on what I said, or if you just want to say hello, I'm very happy to read all of your ideas. Thanks.